Hey guys, what's up? We are back with some Summoner's War. This will be the second video in what I'm doing with this Giants team. I showed you guys in the first video what I and a lot of people consider to be the best first Giants team you can build for what it is, for it being farmable and relatively easy to build and get together. So now we're at a point where you've been farming Giants for a little while. You've been upgrading some runes. You've been grinding in the game and progressing, and you fuse Sig. That should be the next priority over Veramos, or after Veramos, I should say. So you fuse Sig, you fed him a few Devilmons. If you can get him all the way skilled up, that's great. And now you can swap out Darien with Sig. And the reason that you can do this is because Sig's leader skill is 44% HP. So you're losing that passive from Darien that negates 15% of the incoming damage, but the trade-off is the extra 11% in HP you're getting, because with Veramos, leader skill, you're getting the 33% HP. So now you've got Sig lead, that's an extra 11%. So you're getting a little more HP, but you're losing Darien's passive. Still won't really be an issue. It'll kind of balance out. So let's go ahead and get started. So now what this does is it speeds your run up. If you remember your runs with the first team were about 4 minutes long. So that's kind of a long, again, it's not bad for a first team, but after a while it's like, okay, this is getting old. I need to speed these runs up a little bit. So now what you're doing is it's basically the same thing, except now you've got Sigmar's doing that. You've got Sig wiping out waves for you. Single target nukes and wiping out waves. And Sigmar's is another monster that is not really that hard to build. So after this, we'll go check out the runes on Sigmar's, but not a hard monster to build, and a great addition to a Giants team. So one, she's bringing in that leader skill. She hits hard. She hits very hard, and she has the AoE. She has potential stun with the first skill, and her second skill hits very hard. Her third skill also lands a lot of debuffs. So we'll go in and analyze Sigmar's a little bit more after this run. But everybody's still doing the same thing, and by now you've probably upgraded some runes a little bit. You'll be dropping a lot of Swift runes as you do these Giants runs. So you'll be able to swap out better runes on these monsters: Despair, Swift, Focus, Energy. All the important runes if you're not using violence sets on your monsters to make a Giants run successful. And as you can see, now we're just kind of mowing through it. Now Sigmar's can be a little squishy, so there is a worst case scenario here where Sigmar's gets killed, but that's not necessarily the end of the world. You still have a good team left if Sig gets killed, and usually if Sig dies, it's going to be at the Giant. So you will have already gotten to the Giant, and it won't be an issue, but it's not very common. Sigmar's does not die very often. You just come in, you set it straight to the boss, and you let your team go to work. And it's the same principle. Now Sig's third skill, when she does it, is going to hit based on the max HP of the Giant, which is one of the things that makes Sigmar's very useful against the Giant. Now you see we've got all the buffs on, we've got the attack break on, and he didn't have an attack buff. He did very little damage. The Giant did very little damage to us there. So, but you can see just chunks of the HP coming off. So this is the next adjustment to make if we're strictly talking farmable monsters and easy to build monsters. This is the next adjustment to make, and it speeds your runs up greatly. So let's see what we did. So 230. We knocked a minute and a half off of our Giants run with one adjustment. And an adjustment that is not that difficult to make. So let's go take a look. I showed runes in the first video on all the other monsters, so I'm not going to bother looking at them. You can go back and check that out if you want to see the runes and hear me talk a little bit about them, but let's just talk about Sigmar's here. So very little HP. I could use more HP on my Sigmar's. So if you can get more HP, Sig is not going to die. So let's say 44%, we'll just roughly say like 3,800 is what's getting added to this. So we're looking at around 16,000, we'll call it. That's decent. That's decent. but it wouldn't be hard to get a little more than that. I've got quite a bit of attack on my Sigmaris. You don't really need this much attack, and I'll get into why in a second. And then I have a pretty good amount of crit rate and decent crit damage. You don't necessarily have to match these stats either. None of that's necessary. I just happen to have some decent runes on my Sigmaris. I could use more speed, but let's take a look at the skills. We've got a stun on the first skill, which is always useful in the waves. This is the skill. This hits really hard. It's a really hard single target nuke that will freeze if you get a crit. So that's very good. And then attacks all enemies with an exploding volcano, inflicting damage based on their max HP and attack break. So this is why this is so good, because the giant obviously has a lot of HP. So you come in and you land the skill a few times, you're doing a huge amount of damage. And it's not on current. That's something to note. It doesn't do less damage as the giant's HP goes down because it's on max HP. So it's always hitting really hard, and it's putting that attack break on. So that's very good. Also, you want to get these skills up as much as you can. Now let's take a look at the runes. I went Fatal Offset. I think Fatal is a really good way to go here. For the offset, you could go Energy, you could go Blade, you could there's a lot of different things you could do here. So, and you don't have to go Fatal. I know I've heard people going Vamp. I know some people that go Despair. There's a lot of ways you can go here. Basically, you just want to get that attack, crit rate, crit damage up. You want to have a decent amount of speed, but again, you're taking Bernard, so speed is not super important, and Sig can go last. Sig can absolutely go last, so speed is not super important. As you can see, I mean, we've got plus 33 speed. Not very fast, but with the monsters that are around Sig, speed is not that important. So let's take a look at what we have. We've got attack, slot 2. Again, I'll just kind of click through. But we went attack, crit damage, attack, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. You could go attack, crit damage, HP if you feel like Sig was too squishy, or vice versa, HP, crit damage, attack. You could go full attack. You could go, whatever you can do. For earlier game, you probably want to go full attack, not rely so much on the crit rate, crit damage, because that can be a little harder to press in. But if you're just looking for attack and HP in the subs, and crit rate so you can land that freeze occasionally through the waves, that's great. If you feel like you can throw crit damage slot 4, do it. If you want to throw a crit rate slot 4, do it. It's a very diverse monster. There's a lot of ways to get these stats up. So Fatal helps you get the attack up, but again, there's a lot of different ways. You could go Rage. You could go, again, there's a lot of different ways to go here. So basically, the key stats here, you want to get that attack up because you want Sig hitting hard. You want a little bit of HP because, again, you don't want Sig getting one-shotted when you're in there with a giant. And then if you can get the crit rate, crit damage up, fine. That's great. And that's really it. Not a hard monster to build. Very reliable. I know that I said Sig dies sometimes. It's very rare that Sig dies in these runs for me. I would say maybe 1 out of every 20 does Sig die. And the team has not failed. I've run the team a bunch. I used to run this team a lot. So it doesn't fail. It's a very reliable team. And it knocks 1.5 minutes off of what your first team was running. So it's a great adjustment to make. And this is a team you could run for a while. I mean, 2.5 minutes is very tolerable. That's a very tolerable Giants time. I mean, I think you saw my best time was like 1:45. So I haven't gotten crazy better than 2:30. So that's a very good time. It's a great team, farmable, easy to build, and it's a huge step in the right direction. So we'll end it there. I will try to come with a third video of another adjustment to speed things up a little bit. But honestly, now we're going to be talking about pulling different monsters, some specific Nat 4s, maybe some decent Nat 5s. So maybe I won't make a third video. I'm going to take that back, and we'll switch over and we'll start talking about, what do I want to talk about next? We'll talk about dragons next, because man, dragons is a turd. Dragons is a hard dungeon, so we'll work on dragons next. So I hope this helped you. Hope I didn't run through it too fast, and I hope you enjoyed it, I guess. It's always good if you enjoy it. Same as always, if you have any questions for me, feel free to drop them in the comments. I'm happy to be as interactive as I can be with you to help you get these teams put together and get you guys progressing through the game. So any questions, hit me up. And other than that, I hope you guys have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video.